Today we are so excited to have Vrushali joining us, the Chief Product Officer at Carta. What's fascinating about Carta is they power over half of all VC-backed companies and manage over $2.5 trillion in equity. Vrushali's been at Carta for nearly a decade, leading all kinds of different products and now their AI-driven transformation, taking private capital finance teams from systems literally built in the 80s and 90s into an AI world. We're so excited to dive into this today. Vrushali, we are so excited to have you in AI Product Kitchen.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks so much for having me.
Take us on the journey of Carta itself. It started as cap tables, and one quote I think I heard you say, which I found fascinating, was Carta was rejected by almost every Series A investor and is now a powerhouse. Take us on this journey, and I guess the bigger question underlying this is, what do you think about going after opportunities that others may miss in the market?
Yeah, the story goes, Carta was rejected by every Silicon Valley investor during their Series A raise, and then ultimately raised from USV, which is a New York-based firm. And the reason everyone said the market for cap tables was far too small for this to be a venture-backed business, and they weren't wrong. The market for cap tables was very small, and at the time, we weren't the first cap table management solution. And if you looked at the market, it was the incumbents were selling into law firms, and the size of the market was quite small. I think there was two things that we saw differently, and finally, Henry and Manu Kumar, who's his co-founder and first seed investor, they were able to convince other investors was one that it's a little bit about seeing the forest through the trees. Cap tables was just step one into something much bigger. At the time, we thought it was bringing liquidity into the private markets, really building the infrastructure for the private markets such that we can match some of the features of the public markets, which is liquidity. That was the original dream, and we could talk about what happened there. The second was that there was business model innovation in I think, how Carta did business. Instead of solving for law firms and selling to law firms, we said, hey, law firms, your money is no good with us. We're going to build direct relationships with the founders, and we're going to sell exclusively to companies. And so what might have been a $60,000 Cooley contract, we were selling to startups for $2,500. But Henry has famously said that Cooley book of business, Cooley might have paid their, at the time, cap table management solution like $60,000. Today, the Cooley book of business is worth something like $60 million to us, right? So just changing who the payer is changed the shape of this market. And today, the cap table business is nearing $300 million in ARR, and so it's far bigger than anyone ever thought when we started this business, and so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, there seems to be a whole category of businesses that get told their market is too small. I think Vanta is one of them. Canva, famously Australian, is one of them as well. What advice do you have for product leaders or founders that may get told their market is too small? How do you actually differentiate between it is too small and it's connecting the dots to something bigger that's out there?
I think this clarity of vision, right? What does step one unlock? And then is step two interesting? Is step three interesting? And I guess I'll cut to the chase here a little bit. We thought that cap tables would lead to the NASDAQ of private capital of the private markets. That's not, we tried that. It didn't quite work, but there was so much we built. We knew that was step, that was the last step. And there was so much infrastructure that we built along the way, right? By building cap table management, we became the central registry of assets. Okay, once we had the central registry of assets, we needed a way to value those assets. We built our 409A business. That was an existing service business out there, right? And so we were able to bring that in, and we were the first to bundle cap tables and 409As. Now it seems obvious, but at the time, that's not how the space worked. You went to your law firm for your cap table management, and then you went to another accounting firm that charged you $10,000 for your 409A. So again, we bundled those, we lowered the overall cost for those two together. But there was so many other things we did along the way. We built a whole array of solutions for companies and compliance around equity management. Then we built for investors because they were the other part of the equation when we were thinking of building the NASDAQ of private markets. And so we built what started off as portfolio management and grew into our fund admin business, which is my business and the business I helped both start and grow at Carta for my first 5 years at the company. And then we also built experiences for LP. So along the way, we've built so many of these products to start connecting the different experiences and build this infrastructure that we thought eventually would. And these were problems that we knew private capital had, and we thought eventually solving all these problems would lead to our liquidity solution. And we built the liquidity solution, but as people may know, Henry has talked a lot about this, that we never found product market fit there. But one of our realizations was that all of the problems we solved along the way was where the value was. It was like all the connections we made along the way, and we looked at that, and again, this was, Henry was sort of in a meeting with Mark Andreessen actually, and describing everything that we had built. That wasn't the Carta X, the liquidity solution. And Mark was like, "It sounds like you built the NetSuites for private capital." And Henry was like, "Yeah, that's actually exactly it. We built the NetSuites of private capital." And now that this is the whole business, now we're just we've really anchored the business on this and saying, okay, we have so much of this foundation already. What else do we need to do in order to take it to the next level?
When you say you didn't get product market fit there, can you take us a level deeper there? What do you actually mean by that? What were the signals at the time?
Yeah, I think the product saying, don't just build the product and hope your customers will come, build with the customers. But then at the same time, I think there's the opposite advice of the famous Stuart Butterfield, I think, wrote this post based on the original Henry Ford way of thinking, which is we don't sell saddles here. Don't just build faster horses. Think about the next. And so they see these are two almost diametrically opposite schools of thought, right? Don't just build something and hope your customers will come. And on the other end, it's just think big, think bold, think about what the future can be. And at the outset, it felt like private markets needed liquidity, right? Needed better infrastructure, more transparency, and we have all of these employees and investors who are paper rich, but will wait decades before they get to realize the value of that ownership. And so it just felt like that was a missing piece of the puzzle. So we thought we were building the car in a world of horses. When we got there, it felt like, oh, we did the thing where we built something without bringing our customers along. And so and that was we launched this. The first product we launched was auctions, which was I think in 2020, and we were the first customer, and there was a lot of buzz, and then there was a few others, and then it sort of it coincided with the SPACs era. And so everyone was doing, all the people we were talking about doing auctions with us were we'll just do a SPAC when SPACs were hot. And so we're okay, well, maybe we just got the timing wrong. And then SPACs went out of vogue. So we're okay, maybe now is our time. And by then the solution has sort of evolved too. And we started doing different flavors of this Carta X product. We tried many different flavors, everything from the auctions product where it was a price matching product where there was buyers and sellers, and and they would submit bids, and the product would figure out or what the right price, the clearing price is, and then transactions would happen to like bilateral trading, right? Like what if it isn't a single event, but it's like you accumulate these bids and asks over time, and then you sort of do matching. And yeah, there was actually, I won't go into every flavor of this thing that we tried that didn't work, but yeah, there just wasn't product market fit. One of the learnings for us was the signals were just, we weren't getting customers. We tried for many years, not like we tried for a couple of months, but we tried. This was like 10 years of the making, and at least 5 years of actually being in the market, and lots of experimenting, lots of growth hacking. None of it really worked. And Henry also wrote about this. One of our reflections on this, all of the experiments and all of the product building that we did, was this idea that, well, is opacity a feature or a bug of the private markets? And I think at the outset, we thought that it was a bug, that the market would want us to fix this such that it's more efficient, more people can participate. But for the participants, and sort of the deal makers of in the private markets, it was a feature, because that's how arbitrage happens, right? That's how, like, it's their access that gives them, their special access that gives them the ability to transact in a way that will lead to like gains over time. So I think people have asked, well, was it just bad timing? And maybe the whole 10 years that we were trying, it was all bad timing. And maybe one day there will be a scalable solution for this problem. But for now, it doesn't seem like now is the timing. And Carta is not the company that will solve that problem.
One of your many superpowers, and I actually got this one from Jane Alexander, your former CMO at Carta. Right, yeah. She said, you are fascinating at how you think about systems, and more importantly, connect the dots between one single problem and how that unlocks other opportunities in the future. And so I want to understand, like, what happened next? Like, what were the dots that actually connected you up to what you call now the ERP for private capital?
So yeah, systems thinking, I would say, is one of my superpowers. And every time I approach a problem, I like to understand, well, like what is the current way that people solve this problem, right? And so I like to go deep, like what are all of the ways that you, what are all flavors of this problem? What are all different ways you get started? And then like, how does like one person step through to solving this problem? Well, how does another person? And keep like, when I'm talking to customers and doing user research, I keep like building this this system out. And my most used app on my desktop is Lucidcharts. I am a heavy power user of Lucidcharts. Anytime I'm thinking through something, I'm like, okay, boxes in line, let's like map this out. So I'm a big fan of like systems thinking and systems mapping. But I think it's been a powerful tool for Carta, because in doing this like systems mapping and understanding how the real world works and putting it down on paper, it's one of the primary ways we have like uncovered all these like pools of value, right? Like, oh, like if you have equity, you know, once a year you need to figure out like the fair market value of that equity so that you can issue options with a strike price. Well, to do that, you need a 409A. How do you get a 409A? Oh, you actually like go to Scalar, this accounting firm, and they will give you a 409. Well, how did they do it? And if you start like mapping the system, you're like, they just take the cap table and run some math on it and give you, and take some company financial, they take a couple of inputs, do some math, and then give you the answer. Well, that feels like something we can do. And 409A was actually my the first product I worked on at Carta. Well, and you keep like, if you keep sort of expanding, you run into the next problem and the next problem and the next problem. So finding these pools of value and seeing, okay, how are they currently being solved? And then do we have edge, right, in solving that in a unique and interesting way? And that's how so many of these businesses have been formed at Carta.
So can you talk me through like how this has influenced how you actually go after opportunities? Like, do you sequence it out in your roadmap? Do you do it all at once? Like, how do you actually execute on this?
Yeah, I think the answer to this has changed. Carta as a business has really evolved in the ways I think we've built businesses and product. We I think we were famously like always paranoid because again, going back to our Series A days where everybody told us market for cap tables is too small, like you're just not going to grow fast enough to be a venture-backed business. We were always like paranoid about, okay, what's like the next thing we're going to do? And so I think that really impacted org structure and org design in the early days. And Henry is like a big org design nerd. I would say he talks a lot about org design, thinks a lot about org design, and org design for him is one of like one of the ways he wields sort of influence on the business, and it's a way for him to tell the business what matters right now. And so in the early days, we were like a startup of startups. So anytime we ran into one of these problems that we were interested in going after, we would form what we called like a trifecta team. So it was a business leader, a product leader, and engineering leader. That's like Dave McClure's hacker, hustler, designer model. It was our version of it, and we would build a team around them, and they would basically be like a mini startup within Carta, and they would go and get after these problems. Over time, this has shifted, especially I think in the last 18 months as we're thinking about the ERP for private capital, because we have built so many of these, like we've identified so many of these pools of value in private capital and built products for them. Now I think the really interesting problem for Carta is actually connecting these products, right? I wrote a LinkedIn post this week called Never Enter Data Twice, and this is like one of my building heuristics for my team, which is like, once the ERP knows something, it's the only time it needs to find that. Like everywhere that needs to know that piece of information knows about it. So I think in the last 18 months, there was this like tipping point for us where the incremental value of R&D investment was better spent connecting our products than building new products. That doesn't mean we're not working on new products, because we have tons of ideas, and so, but we're certainly way more disciplined about how many ideas that we're funding at once. So there are still a few new things that we're working on, but a lot of the R&D team is really focused on connecting the platform and really going from it's what was just a bunch of different products, different SKUs, and turning it into a platform. Like it's the platformization of Carta.
This reminds me of Rippling's strategy, like start with employee onboarding as like the atomic unit and then build other products like payroll and everything on top. Does that feel familiar?
Absolutely. I think, Parker Conrad is a product genius, and I think there's a lot of parallels between our businesses.
Carta's sitting on a wealth of private capital data, from fund managers to cap tables to compensation data and so much more. That's huge and ripe for AI. Take us on your AI journey so far at Carta.
I think the Carta's sitting on a lot of private capital data as the reason a lot of us have come to Carta, including myself. I was always like super energized about the type of data Carta has and what that could unlock for private capital. But I think our early experiments on AI were just didn't lead us very far. Important source of truth in private capital is actually a contract. It's a legal document, right? It captures all of the transactions of private capital. It captures your cap tables, right? Like how do you figure out what is going on in your cap table. You read like 3 legal documents that show you what your cap table is, and then you sort of interpret it. In Carta's case, we are able to put that into software. Same thing on the fund side. The way a fund operates is all prescribed in their LPA. So private capital runs on legal documents. And so all of the early experiments were around reading legal documents. But the AI back in like 2017, 2018, when I joined Carta, was just not good enough to do that very well. So I think that we had a really slow start, and then we built our own ML team, and we got better. We got better at like the first like AI product that we built basically checked cap table data based on the legal documents and found errors, right, proactively for our customers. And so would like alert our internal teams. Here's where the legal documents and what's in our database actually don't say the same thing, and then we could go chase them. So the first like version of that was purely built in-house. But it took us a long time. Now I think the pace of like innovation using AI has like really picked up, because I think the models, the external models are getting better and better. Our own like ability to apply them and extract value from them is like getting faster and faster. And so it's an exciting time to be at Carta, especially using AI, because we've continued to, in this time, accumulate so much data about the private markets and private capital. So, and it's not only that we have so many documents and so much data, but we also have the workflows to run transactions and create a system of records. So, the value for Carta to be able to extract data from documents is far greater, because we actually know what to do with it. We can the data can actually help us like automate so much of private capital transactions.
When you talk about like an AI bet, like for example, pulling out errors from legal documents, is that customers asking for it? Is it a founder bet? Like, where is it actually getting pulled from?
I think recently it's been a combination. There's things that we think we can do that we have been thinking about for many years, but now it's just getting easier, as I said. And then I do think market expectations around software and the use of AI in software is changing. So this is like, yeah, I think we're just like so early in this, the early innings of like where software goes and where SaaS products go really with AI, but it's an exciting time to like, innovate and really push the boundaries of what's possible.
When you think of an AI bet, how do you actually go and execute on it? Is it like the trifecta you mentioned, like single teams and a single person? Like, what does that look like from an allocation of resources perspective?
I think it starts with like a clearly articulated thesis on what is possible, and then we generally try to experiment with a small team and either prove it out or not and move on to the next thing. And then if we do prove it out, then we're talking about, okay, how do we scale this, right? Like the documents thing is working phenomenally well, and now like tons of teams are actually using AI to read documents and incorporate them into workflows, versus where we're on the like again early days of our agents strategy, and how does the application of AI agents change the shape of the Carta business and software? And I would say that's still very much in incubation mode. And once if we prove that out, and I think it's like not a if, it's a when. But when we prove it out, there's so many applications of that across the different nodes that we're operating in and the different problem sets that we're grappling with across those nodes.
Tell me more about that. What does an AI agent mean in Carta's context?
Yeah, I first learned about AI agents not that long ago. It was a product podcast that Mark Benioff was doing, and where he's been such a champion of agent force and the new era of AI agents. And he gave this example of you can go to the doctor's office and they'll give you sort of this medical treatment plan. But today, then you're sort of on your own, right? Like it's up to you of whether or not you've like followed that treatment plan. Our medical system isn't really well set up to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. But how does AI change that? Well, agents can then, I think this, I'm paraphrasing a little bit of what I remember he said, but agents can then follow up with you about your treatment plan and make sure you're doing the right things at the right time. And I think there's this like orchestration that these agents are able to do. And when I think about problems at Carta, we have so many of these orchestration problems, right? Like we're like, whether it's checking things between different systems and then making a determination about them, or just doing the same thing. Like we know what to do, but we just have to follow through and make sure the different like actors who are involved in getting something done are doing their piece, and an agent can like follow up with all the different actors. So where we're experimenting with this right now is in the ERP solution we're building for investors, for CFOs of investment firms. We actually have this really sophisticated system of health checks that we've been building over the course of the last 5 years. And health checks do things like health checks basically use signals and data from our products to make sure that an action is performed correctly, and that data is in sync, right? Like simple things, even like making sure your P&L and balance sheets are tying out. Like that's a very classic accounting problem. Well, we have health checks that make sure that your P&Ls and your balance sheet ties out. And if the health check is failing, what do you do about it? So this is our first AI experiment, which is we're using AI to come up with a plan of action for failing health checks. So given a failing health checks, how should we go fix it? And so that's step one, like making sure these what AI is suggesting as the way to resolution, that's correct. And so today we have humans acting on that. But I think like the sort of the future of this is AI agents can actually resolve health checks, failing health checks in the product, and that's really exciting.
This brings up like an interesting debate that I keep seeing in the market of like, does AI replace? Does it augment? And I've seen like takes of both, right? Like, replicate a junior engineer versus take an engineer and give them superpowers. Like, how do you approach this augmentation versus replacement debate?
Yeah, I'm very much in the augmentation camp. It's at least what we're seeing today, right? I think there's still so much like judgment involved in the work that our teams are doing for clients, but there's also a lot of drudgery, right? Like there's just grunt work, and I think that AI can help us automate not exclusively AI, but the combination of the workflow software that we're building and AI can help us over time just bring the grunt work down to zero. But there's still so much like because our internal teams sit across so many different clients, they're developing points of view on best practice. But again, AI can do that too, but it's the application of that best practice to the particular client situation where I think humans still will be involved. And so I do think that, AI is helping us augment the work that we do. I think it's elevating the bar for good for everyone, which is great. It's providing some downside protection, but I think that we will still rely on human judgment and human intellect in order to do the best things in the world.
You mentioned that AI will augment the human. So that means there's going to be an AI partnership with an actual human in the loop.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on how that user experience actually plays out in reality?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I'm still early innings of this. I do think AI will have a lot of impact, a great impact on UX, but it will vary use case to use case. So here's our use case, right? Like, again, we're dealing with private capital transactions. The threshold for correctness is pretty high. Like we got to get things right 99.9999% of the time. So we can have AI automate, but we always have to verify with humans. And we can actually also help have software and AI check. But again, getting the human in the loop is an important part of the products that we are building, both for our internal teams and for our customers. So this past like 6 months, I think we've started to build our first set of experiences where you do things like, instead of manually going through and creating a share class for your cap table, you can upload documents and AI can extract the data from the documents and build your share class. Okay, one of the challenges we've run into is that, well, AI takes a few minutes to go and read the documents. This is a heavy transaction. But if you were doing it yourself, you would also take a long time. But one of the UX challenges with that is that people are abandoning these pages before the AI has time to process. So now it's like, it's introducing sort of a paradigm shift in how we're thinking about building a product. Like, do we build, so then we're thinking about asynchronous workflows, right? Like, you upload a document and we're like, cool, like, let's come back in 5 minutes, or we'll email you. I have this crazy idea that nobody likes about putting a joke spinner while you're waiting. Like, you can, we'll put like accounting and cap table jokes in front of you. So I don't know, we haven't decided which one of those we're doing, but that's a different paradigm of problems than like when we're building these human in the loop experiences that we haven't grappled with before. So we're running into a lot of that, and that's on the writing side. Like, how do you write to the product? On the read side, I previously was just like, nobody wants to have a chatbot in Carta. Like, nobody would want a Carta chatbot, right? But now I'm starting to change my own mind about this.
Wow.
Perception. Yeah, because so here's a thing that everybody used to do a lot, which is search on Google search. Like, you have a question, you put it in Google, and then you like find the right link and you click on it and you read this article that wasn't specifically written to answer your question, but will probably have the answer. But now I don't do that anymore. When I have a question about where did gold come from, I'm asking Grok, or I'm asking Claude, or I'm asking one of the many AI apps that I have on my phone. And so there's been a shift in even my own behavior on how I want to receive information. And so that has changed my mind about what is the right type of read experience. And again, like, maybe it differs use case to use case. So we have to think about what are the right use cases for chat versus what are the right use cases to like land you on a table and then let you explore, right? But I think like AI is like blowing up all design paradigms that used to exist, and yeah, it's just changing the shape of everything.
The joke spinner is hilarious. I'm going to come into Carta and see Vrushali's jokes.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm a big advocate. There are other people who don't want to do that. We'll see if I'll let you know if the joke spinner ever makes it into the product. Yeah.
The point around accuracy is fascinating. I had Jeff Seibert on the show yesterday, who serves accountants with digits, and they have a very high bar as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Who sets that bar for you? Is it the customer? Is it your own like standard? Yeah, where does that come from?
Yeah. One of our principles is like, we don't build products for CYA, right? Like, it's not customer in the loop because we're doing CYA. It's customer in the loop to build trust. But we still have to do all of the diligence to make sure that data is right. So I would say we're setting the bar for ourselves, and we have a really high bar. And our job is also to bring the customer along with us to to build that confidence and build the trust in the product. And where we truly don't know and definitely need the customer's input, do it, right? So I think the bar is set internally.
When you talk about bringing that customer on the journey with you, what does that look like from a more practical standpoint? Do you have feedback loops, beta programs? Like, what are the actual rituals you have in place?
All of the above. But it's also like, okay, so one of the other things that we've built recently, so I talk to customers a lot. So does most of the product engineering and design team. So I think as an R&D team, we're really out there and in the trenches with our customers. One of the things I think, again, that's really specific to our space, and I talked about, how we sell to fund CFOs and sort of the bar for like proving that the software does what it says it does is really high. So one of the things that we recently built in response to this was tracebacks. So tracebacks is this like new design paradigm where you can click into a number in Carta and see how the provenance of that number, where did that number come from? So like, how was that number calculated? What are the building blocks that made up that number? What is the legal document that prescribed that this is the way that number needed to be treated? This is it was one of the most complex projects we've taken on, and one of the most beautiful things I think we've built in Carta. But I think this is like a game changer for the industry, and we are going to see more and more tracebacks in the Carta product in the next 12 months, and I think that's really exciting. But that's like one of the things I mean when I talk about building trust with the customer.
Who do you get your inspiration from?
Everywhere. I think I'm a deeply curious user of other products, and so everything from like physical objects, the design of physical objects to like other software. I like to take note of like things that I think are done really well, and then I have like a DM with my head of design, like, have you seen this, and like screenshots, and so I draw inspiration from everywhere. I think a lot of people are doing a lot of cool things right now, and so
You talk a lot about incumbents having the advantage in an AI world because they have more data. I'd love to actually unpack the inverse of that. Like, what keeps you up at night about startups, and where do they actually have a chance at beating an incumbent?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's these two former Carta employees that have started an AI company called Mesh, Nandini and Aaron. They are building agents for finance teams. So I was talking to them last week, and I'm like, well, you're in a very crowded space. There's a lot. They're building for startups and operating companies. There's a lot of finance solutions already built. So what is their edge? We were sort of brainstorming, and we came up with two things. One is just AI native, right? Like to have a fresh start and think about AI as a first order citizen and how you build and approach the world. And we talked about how AI is going to blow up everything, how you build product, what the UX looks like, how you learn about your customers, so much of what you're doing, Matt, with Sauce. So there's an advantage. I think there's a strategic advantage in starting fresh and building a culture around being AI first that gives you edge, that gives you speed and velocity towards solving problems for your customers. So I think that's pretty exciting for startups to just like get to build good habits from the beginning and build a company that only lives in this like new world of AI. And then the other thing is, I think what the incumbents have is data. That's their competitive advantage. I would say that's Carta's competitive advantage. So that's great. I think as a startup, one of the things you can sort of accept is like, it's going to take you a long time to displace any incumbent that has a data advantage over you. But one of the things you can do is like be very open. So like aggressively build integrations from the outset and be the middle layer, right? And be able to connect different sources of data in new and unique ways, and then build AI on top of it. I think there's something really powerful in that. Explicitly not trying to be the system of record from the start, but being the product that connects all of these data sources.
One thing fascinating about Carta when we talk about moats is how you've actually figured out you have this gold mine of data. What else can we do with it? And drawing a thread to content. You guys are so good on the content strategy, to a point where I rely on that to actually understand compensation benchmarks and things like that.
Yeah.
Talk us through other multiplications of value that you can get from the data itself and moats in general.
Yeah, I think we think a lot about how data can power decision making. We've made almost an explicit choice not to build data products, right? Most of the data, I would say, most of the data that we have now amassed, we are giving back to the market as a gift back to the ecosystem. It's like the Peter Walker work and all of the state of private markets and state of compensation reports that we do. We're building for this ecosystem of startups and founders and funders and capital allocators, and the best thing we can do is give back to the ecosystem that helped us become who we are. So we've taken that stance on the data because it's our clients' data, and the best use of it is in an aggregated, anonymized way. Just use it to serve the ecosystem. The other part of this is we have used data to become really opinionated about the products that we're building. So you at Carta are not only coming to Carta to streamline your workflows, but know what is the right answer. What is gold standard in how I should calculate IRR for my fund? What is gold standard in how I set up the fund? What is gold standard in how I report to LPs? So using data to build opinionated products and guide our customers to better decision making. That's one of the ways that we are using the data.
You've described private capital as both AI curious and also stuck in the past. If we fast forward 5 years from now, what would you say finance teams are doing today that will seem so obviously archaic?
Yeah, I always find it curious that so private capital finance teams, the teams that are at the backbone of the investors who are investing in literally the future, they're using the most outdated technology out there. I mean, they're using technology built in the 80s and 90s, and it's holding them back. And so this is why I'm so excited about so much of the work that we're doing at Carta, building the ERP for private capital and bringing these finance teams into the modern age in terms of their tech stack. I think one of the things that will seem archaic 5 years from now is this idea of making sure the numbers tie out. So much of the work that these teams do is making sure the numbers tie out, making sure the math is doing math correctly, right? And I think that is the reality of so many of these teams today, because they're using disparate systems. They're really using Excel as the interface to tie out all of these systems. So they're entering data in multiple places and then using Excel to make sure that data in multiple places is saying the same thing. And I think, this is something we actually stumbled upon in the years of building Carta as such an opportunity for us to go solve. There's no reason that they need to be managing so many different systems that don't talk to each other. And for so many of the other industries, there has been an ERP that really creates state change in that industry. So SMBs have had QuickBooks and Xeros. The mid-market companies, sort of the de facto ERP has been NetSuite, and in the big public enterprise companies, they're heavy users of SAP. And all of these ERPs, they have a suite of modules to help these businesses run, and they sort of elevate the game. They give these finance teams data at their fingertips, and for whatever reason, no one has solved this for private capital, but we're about to do that at Carta.
That's so exciting. I think one of the phrases you mentioned, which I found fascinating, is CFOs are evolving from back office, like literally stuck in doing debits and credits, to more strategic operators. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, I think this is an evolution we've witnessed at operating companies. If I think about the number 2 executive at Carta, after Henry, our CEO, it's really Charlie, our CFO. And I think what makes Charlie so strategic is that he really looks at the business through the lens of data, through the numbers, right? So he knows everything from the financial performance of the business to where we have costs and how we're allocating resources. And so through the data lens of the business, I think you have a really deep understanding, and you can think strategically about financing. You can think strategically about areas of investment. What is that? That is company strategy. And so this is not just a Carta thing. I think you've seen this, the rise of the operating company's CFO in the last couple of decades, primarily because of, I think, technology, because technology has changed the shape of these teams, and what these ERPs and all of the purpose-built apps on top of the ERPs have done for these finance teams is really empowered them with data and insights about the business that none of the other functions have. And I think we can do the same for private capital. Today, they're stuck in the world of debits and credits, making sure the numbers tie out, like checking formulas in Excel. But if Carta can deliver on the ERP for private capital, if we can make it such that if the ERP knows something, like all of the modules that are running on the ERP are updated. I think what we can do for these finance teams is really give them data at their fingertips, which means we can tell them like what kinds of investment decisions outperform other investments decisions. We can tell them what is the best use of that next dollar, right? Like that is the number one question these investment firms grapple with. Where should they be reinvesting? What money should they be reserving versus what money should they be investing? And so how can data be better leveraged to drive decision-making at these firms? And if I think about who will be best positioned to provide those types of insights, I think it's these finance teams.
Finance teams are literally making billion-dollar decisions. There must be like an interesting persona to build for. Like, what are some of the fears that you come against when trying to get them to embrace AI or the future of this world?
I mean, I think this is a conservative audience. Like the reason they are spending so much time making sure the numbers tie out is they're making highly consequential decisions, right? So there's this article that was written about like the most famous Excel errors, and they're in the order of magnitude of these like errors are in like the billions of dollars, and like that's very consequential. So there is just no room for errors when you're talking about private capital finance. And so I think the CFOs we talk to, they know the future is coming and they're very excited about it, and at the same time they're not in the business of taking undue risk. So they want to make sure the software works, the software is doing what it says it's going to do, and it's doing it consistently. And so selling to them is different than maybe selling to a startup founder, as Carta has sold to both personalities. And I think it's a whole different game, and we have to do the work to bring them along and make sure they have trust in the software that we're building.
How do you think about the PM role at Carta? Where does it start? Where does it end? Who they work with? Like, what does PM look like?
So PMs at Carta, I think the thing that's unique about PMs at Carta is that they go deep in the domains that they operate in. They have to be experts in the spaces that they are building product in. So if you are the PM for our valuations team, you understand the ins and outs of 409A and the option pricing models and Black-Scholes. Because I think one of the things that product managers have to do at Carta is, again, map the system and understand the math, and you can sort of step through and understand, okay, every step of this process and who's involved, where does data come from, what are the outputs of these workflows, and then figure out what does the 10x version of this look like, right? Where can we eliminate work, and where can we streamline, where can we use signals from other products that we have in order to actually automate this product that's downstream from something more upstream. So I do think that one of the unique skills about of Carta PMs is going deep on their domains, and building systems and mapping systems in order to unlock innovation. Other than that, I think I think there are classic PMs in the fact that they're doing problem discovery. They're working with design and engineering to sort of get to the solution and help, and then they're helping the teams actually execute on those solutions. I would say the one other thing that makes the job of product a little different, a lot of teams have this emphasis on problems, right? Like start with the problem, go deep on the problem. And that's obvious. Of course, you should do that. I think one of the things that's different about Carta PMs, we have no shortage of problems we need to solve. I know the next 10 products I would build if I got to build products for private capital. Always. And I've always had maybe the next 100. There's just no shortage of ideas. What's important at Carta is understanding the why. Why this thing and why now? And I think that's one of the things that I think PMs really have to master, because I will scrutinize that. In fact, our product briefs, the first, I think, output of any project is the product brief. We call them starts with why briefs, because I want people to remember that is the most important thing, most important question you're answering first before you start investing in anything.
How do you find PMs that make sure they double down on the why? Is there something in hiring that you look for?
So I have been known to hire a lot of PMs internal to Carta. That is one of my hiring strategies. So here a little bit of my philosophy on this. If I'm competing if I'm competing for external PM talent, I'm competing with all of the other great companies in the world, but I have a competitive advantage when I am seeking and nurturing talent that it already exists in Carta. And so I really look to hire from especially customer-facing teams where they understand their domains, they have deep customer empathy, and I can see they have this systems thinking muscle. They have the ability to think really strategically in a really structured way that lends itself to product management. So I like to keep a backlog of people. I'm I think that person might be a good product manager one day, and then see how they develop, and then eventually ask them if they'd be interested in joining the product team. So I would say still 50% of my team is made up of people who have come from other functions at Carta. And then on external hiring, one of my things that's really important to me is curiosity. So we operate in a very specific domain, and having a passion and a curiosity for private capital and the types of problems we're solving is really important. Because otherwise, I think we take pride in solving really unsexy problems, but you have to be the type of person who's going to nerd out about these problems like we do, because I think people at Carta are really passionate about the most unsexy problems, and that's really cool.
What's one product belief you have that others may disagree with you on?
One of the productisms that hasn't resonated with me much is this idea that PMs are conductors. They're sort of, their main job is to do orchestration. But I think that the PMs are CEOs, PMs are X is just a reflection of more of the company than what PMs really are. what I've found is at different companies, PMs play different kinds of roles based on the needs of that company. So I think the best PMs are really chameleons. They can go into an environment and figure out what that environment needs, and then assimilate, right? So I think the best PMs are great generalists. At Carta, I think PMs are architects, right? Like, because what do? They map systems and figure out how to make them simpler, easier, 10x better. And I think that's fundamentally what architects do. They're building systems. So
When you think about the next 12 months, what are you most excited about?
The ERP for private capital and connecting these products at Carta, how AI has a role to play in helping us do that. I'm so excited about how we can change the shape of work for the back office teams in private capital based on these products that we're building. And I think, like, again, the pace of innovation. I walked in today and I was like, just 2025, everything's moving 10x faster than ever before. And that's so real. And that's exciting. Like, we're cranking at Carta, and I know like a lot of other companies are doing the same. So I've never seen us like move faster than we're moving right now. And that's super cool, super exciting. And I'm excited to see how that has an impact on our customers.
I'm so excited to see it happen. Thank you so much,
Thank
Vrushali.
you.
This has been
Thanks,
amazing.
Matt.
Appreciate it.